This will be a mental health series. This is similar to something I did quite a few years ago, but no longer exists on the channel anymore. Now, when talking about mental health and stuff of that nature, I believe at least the way that I want to do it is transparency. So, quite a few disclaimers here. I am not a professional. I have never been trained. I just suffer with a hell of a lot of mental health problems slash quote unquote conditions. And I've been through a lot in my life. So, not professional, no training whatsoever. This is just me as a human being, just talking through experiences, possibly talking through, again, quote unquote, conditions. And that is it, basically. I hope through this series that I will possibly be able to work through some stuff, maybe be able to help people, maybe. But mainly it's because I'm not a professional. I guess this is a place where I can talk that is safe and will be safe for you guys. So whether you guys get in on the conversation or not, that is completely up to you, and I completely understand. But more so, this is kind of a safe place. I can express myself. You guys can express yourself. Within that, though, trigger warnings. I'm not intending to trigger anyone. I don't want that, but obviously, when talking about mental health, stuff can get quite heavy, stuff can get quite serious, as it should be with mental health. Yeah, so I'm not intending to trigger, but trigger warnings ahead. Um, okay, guys, so this video is going to be a bit weird. I have no title in mind, I have no nothing. Right now, I really am feeling lost. Because my back's up against the wall, and I've kind of got to do a fight that one I never thought I would have to do, and that's quite important for me. And two, that I've never done, right? And somewhere in my head that those are different. So anyone that's done a mental health battle, i.e., trying to get help and stuff, has probably done the battle with their GP of, look, can you just send me to the place, I know where I'm going, like, I just need stuff set up, right? And I guess this is an important part of all this. I've never been turned down for therapy. As I said, I've been messed around with GPs and stuff in the past, and it takes forever. But I've never been turned down. I've never had the Jesus Christ. The people who apparently did an assessment on me say, nah, you're fine. And that's messed up my head for quite a few reasons. I don't want to talk about the steps I'm taking because my head really is so messed up. am paranoid, I'll kind of talk about the journey after the journey is done. But this is. It's really messed me up being like, you're fine. Because my first reaction was, well, this is bullshit, and it was anger. Right? That was my first reaction. My second reaction, and probably the most severe reaction, was, oh god, have I really been fine all this time? Like, am I fine, and am I just making problems for myself? The other part of all this is that I've always kind of been in the mindset, unless they're really, really vile, which is kind of what's happened here, that it's been vile, and quite frankly, it's been disgusting. But I've always tried, and for the most part, kept in my head, okay, this is somebody else doing their job. Okay, they possibly have a family back home. They have their own problems. They have their own life. You don't know what they're walking in with. Although I'm kind of tied with that because it shouldn't really come into it because they're the professional. Blah 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 blah. But I've always tried to keep that in mind. And now my back's so firmly against the wall right now that I am taking steps that, one, I never thought I would have to take. Two, I've never taken it before. And three, proves to me how bad the situation has gotten. I've basically got to go over people's heads, and I'm never a fan of that. I'm never a fan of that. Whether it be dealing with professionals or just people in my head, in my life, right? I don't like this. I'm not a fan of it. And I don't like people that constantly do it, right? I don't like it. But they've ignored everything. They haven't shown any ounce of empathy, humanity. Just they can't be asked with me, basically. And that is neglect. In terms of professionally, whether it be medical, mental health, otherwise, blah, 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 blah. And even that word neglect, I hesitant to say it because that's a strong word, right? That's a strong word to say. Especially about professionals, never mind in personal life. Well, it could be even worse in personal life, but I am of the understanding that it's kind of locked in stone, and again, in my head it is, that I've got to go above people's heads. There's already been a complaint to a manager, which I don't believe they're going to do and fulfill and take seriously. Everything else I've experienced, I just don't believe it. Quite frankly, I just don't. But I am really at a crossroads right now of, and I guess in my head I've kind of already decided, but I don't want to destroy people, right? I don't want to see people potentially lose their jobs, etc., etc. But when the amount of inhuman and taking it seriously and just lack of caring, honestly, that's been done throughout this process, whether it's been with the GP or with the mental health professionals or apparent mental health professionals, um, and for anyone that's thinking that I'm about to do some radical, no, I am doing this in a professional way. So don't even stop baiting all that. But there is this thing in my head where I'm like, if I take this step, which has to be taken for my safety, for my well-being, for my head, for my headspace, right? That I need the help, and they're refusing and saying I'm fine, even with the stuff I've given them, even with what I've explained to them. So the other thing is, this has really messed up my schedule because I was basically for about 2 weeks, I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything, and it's not about the work. I'm sick and tired of hearing, Neo, it's not that important. Doing the work takes me out of my own head. It stops the screaming in my head, right? And I haven't been able to do that for about 2 weeks because I had to wait for calls and they never called back. I'm tired of people saying, "Oh, we'll call you back on this day," and then, well, why am I having to chase you guys? My point is, guys, things are gonna get very stressful. And as I said, when everything's said and done, I will fill you guys in. Because if anybody else has had to do this battle, I mean, I'm interested if the same sort of thought processes have gone through their heads, honestly. Um, but yeah, for anyone that does know what's going on right now, don't say. As I said, there's a reason why I'm not saying right now. But yeah, it's really messed me up. I've got a tough battle ahead, and I don't know, but the amount of just non-caring, non-human, non-empathetic, just neglect, quite frankly, I'm absolutely sickened by. Just absolutely appalled. So I hope nobody has to do the steps that I'm going to do. But as I said, when it's all said and done, I'll pick this up. And I don't know, maybe this will this will make people feel less alone and make people understand a bit more, maybe. So yeah, that's all I've really got to say, guys. I'm gonna end it here.